For centuries, we've watched artists shape meaning with their hands. Each stroke carries the weight of their...
For centuries, we've watched artists shape meaning with their hands. Each stroke carries the weight of their humanity. But what happens when the artist you're watching doesn't exist?
So I think that unless you actually have human emotion, then you just simply can't produce art.
The rise of AI-generated media shifts the conversation about what counts as art. I also think that most AI-generated media is not art.
To have that connection to the artist, that's what art really boils down to in my mind. I would say what makes it genuine is what we value. It's a connection to the event or the person who created it or the idea that it represents.
This is the world we're in now. Tools like 𝘈𝘮𝘀𝘭𝘪, 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬, or even 𝘠𝘦 let anyone type a few words and get an image in seconds. It's not science fiction anymore, it's here, and it's already changing how we think about art, design, and creativity itself.
Am I for or against AI? I don't think it matters. It's here. It's not going, barring a cataclysm, it's not going anywhere. This is how things will be done moving forward.
I mean, it's like anything. It's technology. It's eventually going to happen. No one thought that you'd be able to pause a movie or a TV show. Then they invented TiVo. Nobody thought you'd be able to ever watch a movie on TV until suddenly you can screen movies.
It ain't necessarily so, but I think as a matter of fact, most AI-generated media is not art. I think it can be pretty, it can sound nice, it can read nice, so what? I mean,
design has always been about tools. From the printing press to Photoshop, AI is just the next step in the evolution of art. You type in a description like a red chair in the middle of the ocean, and a few seconds later, the computer gives you exactly a picture of that. The computer didn't take the picture, it didn't draw it. It looked through patterns and millions of images it's been trained on and mashed them together to make something new, that's creative, that looks real. Think of it like this. Imagine a blender, you put in 1,000 different fruits, and when you hit blend, it makes a smoothie you've never tasted before. That's AI art. It blends everything it's learned into something that feels original.
My name is 𝘂𝘪𝘯𝘪𝘯𝘬. I'm the founder and principal designer at 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘪, and I'm also the founder and I guess, for lack of a better term, CEO of a company called Constellations that focuses on perception mapping and audience association between visuals and concepts. It's a collection of technologies. It's not just a single thing per se, and there's so much that you can do with it. But I mean, the speed at which it can recognize and I guess mimic or emulate patterns is really, pretty incredible. I'm not sure that it does anything that hasn't been done before per se, but the speed at which it's able to do things is really remarkable. And I think that change in pace is already having profound impact on society and culture. If somebody wanted to make AI art, I think you have to first think deeply and define that term art. There's a lot of things you can look at out in the world, and then I would probably say you need to really qualify, what is the context and definition of quote-unquote good art. There's lots of ways to make crummy art with a pen and paper if that's what you wanted to do, and there's lots of incredible art you can make with a pen and paper, and that goes for any tool, whether it's the computer, which a lot of the same controversy was alive and well throughout the 80s and 90s, very much the same conversations that we're having now about AI. You can swap a couple words out in the headlines from that period and they're pretty much the exact same story. So if somebody wanted to make AI art, I would say they first need a real deep education on art history and the genre that they're operating in and what they want to contribute to that.
Well, I mean, painting is just sort of an expression of yourself. It's, cataloging your life. And, it's the one thing I'm good at. And I mean, I think everybody can find something that they're good at. I'm a hobby hunter. I'm an oil painter, painting on the streets in St. Augustine for about 3 years. Well, I mean, my first reaction is the fact that so many people have asked me about it is my first reaction, which I find, literally, it's only just come up with all this AI stuff. It's like, It's one of those things where it's like when the internet was first invented, like, what do you think about the internet? It's like, well, I don't even know how to use it yet, I don't even know what it's doing, I mean, there's absolutely something that about the physical process of applying paint that, they'll never be able to mimic. And I'm never going to see a robot pick up a palette and start mixing colors like Bob Ross does. It's just never going to happen.
I don't really want to draw lines around what does and doesn't count and be open to things changing. I guess I feel like there's at least a kind of art that I think is really important. It's more about like creative self-expression or something like that. I don't know if that's what makes it art, but I feel like that's why I find it valuable. My name is 𝘕𝘴𝘪𝘯𝘨. I am an assistant professor in the core department at Flagler, and I'm a philosopher. My degree is in philosophy. I definitely think that the rise of AI-generated media shifts the conversation about what counts as art. But I don't think it's like you can't make AI art. I just think, as a matter of fact, people don't often make AI art. They just produce images or text or sounds, to meet a deadline or to make a buck or to turn it in for an assignment. I think I do not stand in the way of those uses of it. I just think like it doesn't look like art to me. It doesn't look like there's that creative self-expression going on that is what stands out to me about at least how I think of art. Maybe if you go and collage a bunch of AI images together or whatever, you've done something with it. And I think that has transformed it in a way that at least makes the conversation about whether it's art more plausible to me. I just don't think like prompt engineering is a very interesting aesthetic thing.
When we go to a museum, and we look at something because it evokes a response because that person was trying to tell us something. The fact that people see that you're doing it is the art form. That's the whole thing in itself. It means this much to you, that you're spending your day setting up, creating something. Maybe they don't understand exactly what you're creating, but the fact that they see that you're doing it makes it valuable. AI is built for production and mass production. And that's what the Gutenberg printing press was when it was first invented. Was people used to hand scribe, books, the Bible most notoriously, and they said, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. But if you get some of the first editions of, the books back in the 1200s or whatever, and there's just like little hand-drawn roses and little watercolor kind of things, editions, calling cards of certain scribes. It means something more versus just having the same cookie cutter motif. And that's what they joke about all the time with the Chinese knockoff copy artist or whatever, where they're just looking at something and copying it, and robots are just faster.
You're prompting the black box to produce pretty images. I don't see that as an artistic process. I see it as something else, and I wonder why people are fighting so hard to call that art. I wonder what's really at issue with calling it art or not. Like if we were finally to determine like AI media is art, what would we gain? And I don't mean it as a rhetorical question, like what would be gained or lost in the battle over whether AI media can ever count as art? There are real material concerns that artists have just being, like galleries and art competitions, whatever, being flooded by just mass-produced AI media. I feel like those are legitimate concerns in this transition period where we figure out how to incorporate this technology into our lives. There's something right to the outrage around the printing press. It's not that the printing press is evil and shouldn't exist, but it did fundamentally change the way that art was produced and which art was sort of valued by being printed and purchased and disseminated.
If a digital image has no story behind it, is it art? That digital representation, whether it's taken with a Canon camera or generated by AI or painted by an artist with a brush, it is not that scene. It is representation of some scene, either in the mind of the artist creating it, who successfully translated that to their hand in a paintbrush, or typed it into a computer in such a way to prompt that image, or took the image in an actual space. But it's not the space. It's not the space, and I think that's an important thing that, for whatever reason, we've lost sight of in the last 100 years with the advent of photography and video, that we think these things on screens are real. They aren't. They haven't been. Not even once. Sometimes they're an accurate representation, sometimes they're not. And as far as AI goes, it's just one more tool to generate an image. All of those tools have had transformative power for our world. The printing press, until the invention of the internet, was largely regarded by historians as the single most important invention in human history. The speed transition from pre-press to after-press it cannot be overstated how important that was for where culture and society went moving forward. And I think AI is going to be very much the same.
As a graphic designer, I've learned that nothing is completely original. Everything borrows, reuses, or transforms. That's why it's everywhere, because anyone can type a sentence and make something that looks professional. It doesn't mean the computer is creative. It means it's fast at remixing what humans have already made. AI lets me explore faster. It's not about replacing creativity, it's about expanding what's possible. Every generation has feared the next tool. Photography once threatened painting, digital threatened film. Now AI threatens everything. At the end of the day, it's about expression and the way we choose to do it.